it's a top priority of my criminal division.
Thank you, Matt. And we are praying for Attorney General Bondi, for her healing. We know she has all the confidence of our president. He has said that repeatedly in this fight. It has been a top priority, of course, of his administration, the first administration, which took down NXIVM, the NXIVM cult, Backpage, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and on and on. And there have been many other prosecutions, and that's what we want to focus on, is things that don't make the news, things you may not be hearing about, but we know the president, again, has said repeatedly that saving God's children, I mean, that this evil must be eradicated. And it's no small task, but this is something as a prosecutor yourself in New York, you were very actively involved in. So tell us right now what is happening, what are some of the criminal investigations and prosecutions at the DOJ?
Certainly. So what I think I can say is what we've done over the last 6 months is take a multi-pronged approach to this effort. So first of all, we have our Human Trafficking and Prosecution Unit looking at domestic sex trafficking rings. We also have human rights and special prosecutions focusing on alien smuggling, which often leads to exploitation and trafficking. We're merging those groups to help in this fight. And then we've also elevated a group called Joint Task Force Alpha, which focuses on international cartels and transnational criminal organizations, which often now profit off of not just narcotics, not just firearms trafficking, but human smuggling and human trafficking. And we are dedicated to eradicating those cartels. The second, I would say, is that we have had massive successes in just the last 6 months. We secured convictions of people that had a mass casualty event as part of a smuggling and trafficking ring, which led to the deaths of 53 individuals in Texas. We prosecuted another one on the northern border where a family of 4 died. And we also had Operation Restore Justice, where we arrested over 200 individuals involved in child exploitation. So we've had successes. And the third thing I would say is that we have new initiatives. We are focused on unaccompanied alien children that have come across the border from just, looking at the numbers, from just 2020 to 2024, there were several 100,000 unaccompanied children who were unidentified in the last administration, whose whereabouts were unknown. We're seeking to find those children and prosecute the people who brought them here illegally and prosecute the people that exploited them.
Thank you. And we say, where are the children? Where are those 350,000 plus? Secretary Noem earlier today said 10,000 had been rescued and identified. And then I heard last week, I think it was Representative Clay Higgins said there were 35,000 in classified operations. And obviously you can't talk about that, or maybe there's more to that. And we pray, we're just praying that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not hearing about. Obviously don't want to tip off the traffickers. But when we talk about these gangs, is it 5? Is it 10? You know, we hear MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and we know the powers behind them are quite fierce.
Okay, well, let me give you an example. On February 20th, the president designated 8 organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. And one of the things that allows us to do as prosecutors is to charge these entities with material support for terrorism. And our specialized group, Joint Task Force Alpha, which you just heard about, we brought our first material support charges against the CJNG cartel. And why do I raise that? That is an incredibly pervasive and insidious cartel that is often less known and less talked about, but no less dangerous. And there's evidence of them engaging, again, not only in narcotics trafficking and firearms trafficking, but they are profiting from human smuggling, and then they are funneling those profits back to Mexico to aid in their firearms and narcotics trafficking. So these organizations that engage in smuggling and trafficking, they're often not focused exclusively on that. They're engaged in all manner of criminal conduct, and that's why rooting them out is an absolute top priority from top to bottom in the administration.
And as Eduardo and others have said, a child, unlike a bag of cocaine or fentanyl, a child can be sold over and over and over, or a human, and which makes it that much more, horrific and also profitable for these criminals. So tell me, when you were a prosecutor and in New York, right? And now, has the landscape changed at all? Are we seeing the same types of crimes, the same corporations behind this, or is it deeper and darker?
Look, let me say this. I think sometimes people who haven't, lived in this world and really have been dedicated to it, and I know many, if not all of the people here feel that, but I can tell you one of the last cases I tried as a prosecutor, one of the ones I'm most proud of, is there was a sex trafficking ring. It ran from New York to Missouri to Hawaii, all throughout the country, where women were being beaten and assaulted with baseball bats, wrenches, hammers. The evidence was so disturbing that, frankly, we didn't show all of it to the jury. We were barred because it was so heinous and vicious that we weren't able to actually present all of it to the jury. But we took down this entire organization of 16 people. It's one of the things I'm proudest of. But one of the things we saw in that case, which we continue to see here, is that a lot of times these individuals are imported into the United States from foreign countries, and then they are taken advantage of, they're degraded, they're dehumanized, and that can sometimes be children, sometimes it's individuals of age. And so what we're trying to do is break the link between smuggling and trafficking and make sure that we're rooting out this problem, not just in the US, but abroad, to try to prevent it as a prophylactic measure before it gets out of hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in the big, beautiful bill, there is money allocated now. It sounds like you're expanding your resources and your partnerships as well.
I think two things. We're expanding our resources and partnerships. We have additional funding. We are expanding our state and local partnerships. And we're also being smart about how we're doing this. We are not having information silos on some people just prosecuting domestic human trafficking and others focusing on international. We're bringing those groups together because a lot of times what we're seeing is one thing leads to another. And so we can have bigger and more impactful takedowns of these organizations if we're smart about how we use our prosecutorial resources, if we work with foreign law enforcement partners, and importantly, if we work with state and local police to make sure we're getting incident reports of what's happening in local communities, and not just prosecuting the one individual incident, but thinking about how does that tie to the broader trafficking organization. That's who we need to take down. Otherwise, we're going little piece by piece incrementally. We need impact litigation, impact criminal litigation.
Which countries have been most cooperative, if you can say? I mean, I'm sure it is different country to country, and we've heard testimony about how many of our Latin and South American friends appear to be in communist countries or on the brink. So tell us about that.
Sure, I can think of a few examples of positive relationships recently we had. So this is not just the United States is going to lead that fight. This Department of Justice is going to lead that fight. This administration is going to lead that fight. But I will say this, if we want to prevent the issue, we also have to work with our foreign partners. So recently, there were individuals who were committing these horrific violations in Mexico. We didn't have access to these individuals. We provided the information to the Mexican authorities, and they were able to make the arrest there. Another example that comes to mind, we got a lot of evidence from Guatemala in the mass casualty event that I mentioned. So 53 deaths, and I can't sort of, it's almost makes you pause every time you say it, but 53 deaths. Prosecuting that case and securing those convictions was incredibly meaningful. We were able to get information working with our Guatemalan law enforcement partners. And then finally, a case from Brazil comes to mind where there was a mass smuggling organization that was importing people to work for cheap labor in the United States, and we worked with foreign law enforcement authorities to make sure we have the evidence needed to secure charges in those cases. So I think it's a priority for us to work with our foreign partners to make sure that we can hold individuals accountable both abroad and in the United States.
And we'd like to put you out of business so you don't have to prosecute all these cases. How do we, just personal opinion, to stop the demand, lessen the demand at least, based on the cases you're seeing? I mean, this is, it's pure evil, but how do we best stop the demand?
So I think it takes a multi-pronged approach. You're never going to your point, you're never going to fully prosecute your way out of this problem. I will start with my prosecutor's hat. The thing we need to do is secure harsh sentences for individuals that engage in this and understand this is not some risk-based calculation on whether you should engage in this activity. You absolutely should be, it should be known that you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and we will pursue you whether you're in the United States, whether you're abroad. We will bring you to justice, ideally here in an American courtroom if you've impacted the United States, but if we can't, we'll work with our partners to do it elsewhere. And the second, I think a lot of it is sort of what you're all doing. I think it's important to amplify this message. I think people, again, people who haven't been involved in this don't actually understand how serious this problem is, who don't engage with this every day, who don't understand what happened when people are smuggled across the border or when people are exploited. And so getting that message out, getting eyes in the community is critical.
It really is a shadow war, a silent war in many ways. But thank you, Matt, for all you are doing. God bless you and everyone at the DOJ. And again, give our best to Attorney General Bondi.
I absolutely will. Thank you all, and thank you all for your work on this important initiative.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Tell Pam we're sorry.
I will. Yeah,
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 that's
she's sorry to be here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you, Nancy. You're welcome. Yeah, do that. Ooh, is that better? Wow. 4 hours into it, I figured out how to use the microphone. That's good. You really can't understand the border, I think, fully unless you live near the border and come from a border state. And when you see the changes in the communities along the border, Texas, Arizona, in these important places, it's an amazing thing. But before the border was re-shut down, there were members of Congress who were, ringing the alarm bell, not just about the fact that we ought to have rules-based immigration, even in a country like America that's the most generous towards immigrants in any country in the whole world. You also have to understand the perverse consequences of that open border. I've now come to the conclusion, every time I see someone on TV, I don't watch very much TV. Sorry, TV cameras. I like all of you. But I don't watch very much TV because it seems like whenever someone's on TV or in media talking about how much they care about you, it's a lie in a lot of cases, right? Oh, we care about people, so we have to open up the border, or we care about people, so we have to let 300,000 kids go within our country and not keep track of them, as Kristi Noem and others have talked to us about today. So I really have deep respect for our next speaker because he was talking about this before a lot of people like myself understood it and even visited the border. He's a wonderful conservative champion who has an equally, as the president might call you, Andy, you might also be a stable genius. I'm pretty sure you're a smart guy. He knows how to get stuff done. He has basically a perfect ACU rating for his votes in Congress. And I think he'd like to be the next governor of Arizona, too. But Andy Biggs, come join us. And thank you for all your great work.
Thanks, Matt. It's really an honor to be here with you today. As Matt said, I do come from a border state. I come from Arizona. And it's good. It's really, I miss the heat. It's a dry heat. I was there when I was there just last week, and I got in the car and it said 123 degrees. It was not true. When we got out of the garage, it was 118. It was only 118, so that was fantastic. I thank the Schlaps and everyone at CPAC for holding this very important event today. And I thank the many law enforcement officials who are in attendance, those who are working with you to make our streets safer, and I thank you to all the strong survivor advocates in the room today as well. Your voices matter tremendously. I have the privilege of serving as chairman of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Government Surveillance. And since taking the gavel in the 118th Congress, we've made combating human trafficking and child exploitation one of our major priorities. We've held multiple hearings focused on human trafficking, child protection, and the identification of victims. We also participated in an oversight hearing of Homeland Security investigations where then Director Berger testified to the agency's leading role in combating human trafficking, child sex abuse, or CSAM. We've brought in survivors and listened to them. We've talked to current and former law enforcement and those leading and establishing public-private partnerships to combat this evil. In fact, since I've been the subcommittee chair, we've made sure that we had someone from HSI on our staff as an advisor full-time with us all the time. The witnesses who've come in have been incredibly courageous, and some of whom are here with us today. They've left a lasting impact on our subcommittee. Their experiences led us in passing 3 vital pieces of legislation from our committee. And when the 119th Congress began, we knew there was much more work that needed to be done, which is why our very first subcommittee hearing of the Congress focused on protecting victims of human trafficking and online exploitation. That will not be the last time the subcommittee examines this important issue. Between hearings, legislation, and oversight, our work as a committee is far from over. As you know, human trafficking, you wouldn't be here if you didn't know this, is a heinous crime. It tragically continues to grow in America and worldwide. Its occurrence has spiked in recent years. And from 2021 to 2022, there was a 50% increase in arrests related to human trafficking. And I'm not sure that that reflects even the growth in the human trafficking epidemic. Despite the alarming data, the number of human trafficking convictions is disproportionately low. In 2023, a mere 279 defendants were convicted of sex trafficking, compared to 837 defendants in 2019. That's absolutely unacceptable. While international sex trafficking may be more widely known, domestic sex trafficking unfortunately persists in our great country. In the United States, an adult or child can be trafficked and exploited at hotels, truck stops, airports, online, or even in their own homes. Trafficking victims are exploited in cities, suburban neighborhoods, and rural areas. It can happen anytime and anywhere. Traffickers use force, fraud, coercion to induce their victims to commit crimes. This can lead to the arrest, conviction, and incarceration of trafficked victims without consideration of their victim rights and their victim status. Thankfully, we have made significant progress to help victims and survivors as they move forward with their lives. The vast majority of states provide some sort of relief to victims now for nonviolent offenses committed while under the control of their traffickers. Those laws allow victims to move on from these horrors, re-enter their communities, and get on with their lives. During my first term in Congress, I helped pass the Amber Alert in Indian Country Act into law. That law has saved more than 24 individuals. The ability to find kids soon after they are taken, no matter where in the country they live, is instrumental in keeping them out of trafficking situations. And our committee members also continue to take important steps to protect victims and survivors at the federal level. Last Congress, my friend and colleague on the Judiciary Committee, Representative Russell Fry of South Carolina, led the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act legislation that follows the state's clear lead in providing federal relief to survivors who committed a nonviolent offense as a direct result of having been a victim of trafficking. I was grateful to co-sponsor that bill and to hear it and pass it out of my subcommittee. Mr. Fry worked closely with our Senate counterparts to reintroduce this important legislation, and I look forward to working with him to continue to protect our survivors. While we work to protect victims, it's equally important to hold perpetrators accountable. There's no question that these criminals must be prosecuted. While there are many solutions to contributing to this issue, we must ensure that prosecutors are doing their jobs, as we just heard from the previous panelists, to put these criminals behind bars. We cannot accept lenient sentences. We can't accept sweetheart plea deals for those who wish to bring harm to innocent children and other vulnerable members of our population. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize my friend and border czar Tom Homan for all his work combating human smuggling and exploitation at the southern border. Speaking in front of the Republican National Lawyers Association Policy Conference earlier this year, Mr. Homan recounted a harrowing rescue that resonated with me personally. When speaking about rescuing families, he said, "We found 2 days ago a 14-year-old little girl living with 2 adult males who trafficked her. We found her. She's pregnant from trafficking and being forced into prostitution at 14 years old. We're taking care of her, physically and mentally. Despite what the media says, we're not heartless. We care about our kids." I thank Mr. Homan, who's been down to the border with me on a number of occasions as we analyze and try to fight this horrible evil. Children who cross the southern border as accompanied minors are not safe. Lax border policies promoted by the Biden-Harris administration led to vulnerable children being exploited by cartels and smugglers as they attempted to come to America. The journey for them is incredibly dangerous, and their risk of being sex trafficked is high, incredibly high, unbelievably, and I can't even stress how high that is. In 2014, then President Obama said, "Don't send your children unaccompanied. They might not make it." But I never heard that from the previous Biden administration. Human trafficking and CSAM often intersect when trafficked children are exploited, not only through in-person abuse, but also through the recording and distribution of that abuse as digital content. Traffickers may use CSAM to advertise victims, coerce continued compliance, or profit from online exploitation, making the production and distribution of CSAM a common component of child sex trafficking cases. The exploitation of children through CSAM remains a serious issue both within the U.S. and abroad. Reports of CSAM continue to grow exponentially, with 3,000 reports in 1998, growing to more than 36.2 million in 2023. That's unbelievable, and it's heartbreaking that most of these children remain unknown to law enforcement officials. Identifying children depicted in CSAM is crucial to stop their ongoing victimization and capture the offenders that produce it. The work cannot be done by a federal government alone. Joint efforts among federal, state, international, and non-government partners are essential for the identification and rescue of victims. Throughout the last 2 years, I've had the privilege of working with Tim Tebow and his amazing team at the Tebow Foundation as they led the way with HSI on Operation Renewed Hope, the first of its kind mission to identify, locate, and rescue victims of child exploitation. More victims will be rescued and provided with care that they both need and deserve. My friend and colleague, Representative Laura Lee from Florida, continues to work with the Tebow Foundation to reintroduce the Renewed Hope Act, a bill to ensure that HSI has the people and resources to identify more victims. HSI, state-level task force, including the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, or ICACs, the Tebow Foundation, and many others are leading the charge to identify and rescue children, and for that, I express my deep gratitude. Sunshine is the best disinfectant, and it's the best way to rid the world of these predators who abuse and exploit children. We must bring attention to these innocent children who live in the shadows, longing to be discovered and rescued. We must not shy away from hard topics and hard conversations. We have much work to do. And what do we do? There are many steps we can collectively take as a Congress and as a nation. In Congress, we'll continue to evaluate all the relevant legislation to combat human trafficking and child exploitation. As we don't have police power, we do have legislative power and the power of the purse to empower the police apparatus of the federal government and incentivize the police apparatus of state and local entities to fight this scourge. We must fix the issues caused by the previous administration, and we cannot forget the damage done by radical open border policies. We cannot ignore the women, children, and others who are exploited on the dangerous journey to the United States. Combating human trafficking and child exploitation should be a bipartisan issue. But I would tell you, Republicans will lead the way. We must also ensure that the human trafficking hotline is operating properly and effectively and constantly. Last year, our subcommittee found that some third-party tips were not being reported to law enforcement. This is not related to victims who self-report. It is about third parties concerned about another's well-being. We need to make sure that law enforcement and NGOs are working hand in hand to hold perpetrators accountable. have done a horrible job, the previous administration in particular. They misplaced, by some estimates, well over 400,000 unaccompanied children who were placed in the care of the Office of Refugee and Resettlement. They came across typically unaccompanied. They were placed in government care, but the government placed these children into situations and sponsorships without vetting the sponsors, without maintaining contact, without keeping track, and now we are trying to relocate all those children who have gone missing, many of whom could easily be trafficked. In one instance, we found that in a Florida nightclub, there had been more than 22 children placed in that strip club. And there was no vetting. We have not been able to find those children. And this is not the only example of that kind. From Yuma, we found that there was an address in South Carolina where a lot of adults were being sent there as family units. But when we found that they were repeatedly going to, where literally dozens and dozens were going to the same address as their declared sponsorship home, the investigation turned out there were 3 kids there being rented out. Lives get destroyed. It's up to me. It's up to you. We will not be silenced. We will ensure that our resources go to fight and stop this scourge. I will tell you right now, the #1 human trafficking corridor is in my home state. I know right where it is. We have got to stop that. Attorney General Bondi has made the commitment, and she's doing an outstanding job, to inform her DOJ to make sure they're prosecuting these horrific, evil people who are exploiting these victims. The oversight by my subcommittee will continue. We will find unfortunate instances of waste, fraud, and abuse. But we will also find areas where we can facilitate the saving of these kids and those humans who are these victims of trafficking. There are countless organizations and individuals who claim to use government funding to help survivors. They are liars, and they are abusers themselves. We will find them and root them out and make sure that it is only those who are really helping receive our scarce resources. This is a stain when we find those people who are manipulating the system for further trafficking. It's a stain on the incredible work everyone in this room is doing to protect survivors. My subcommittee will continue its oversight and exploration into legislative solutions for this issue. And I encourage you to continue to use your voices, your brave, courageous voices, that you'll speak up for survivors against these atrocities and speak up against those who use the system to enrich and benefit themselves. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your hard, tireless work. This is on all of us. We can make the change, we will make the change, and we will stop this scourge. God bless you. Thank you all.
I'm incredibly honored that I call him Chairman Biggs because I used to work at the crime subcommittee, and I see his wonderful staff out there who probably don't want to be associated with me. But I want to say thank you to them and thank you to their wonderful team, including Lauren, who is pregnant with her first child. So I'm putting her on the spot. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for what you've done. And I want to conclude with our team here. We are going to close this out strong. I want to first introduce Stuart Whitson, who is currently running for the congressional 11th seat in Virginia, but also is a former law enforcement officer serving in the FBI for years, tracking this problem. He's also a combat veteran, and he also saw what happened in the Biden administration when this was not a priority. So we'll start with Mr. Whitson, we'll move to Mercy and Rosie, and then we will close out. We do have to be out of this room quickly, so I ask that the minute we're done, please join us in the hallway for a good spirit and get to know each other. I'm thankful for all of your time today. Thank you for being here. Stuart, the floor is yours.
I've hunted terrorists overseas, and now I'm watching predators walk free in the backyard of our nation's capital. That's not rhetoric, folks. That's reality. My name is Stuart Whitson, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 11th District. But I'm not here today as a candidate. I'm here today as a former Army combat veteran, a former federal law enforcement officer, and a concerned father of 5 school-aged children who is fed up with weak and reckless policies from the left, which are putting our children and our families in danger. As an Army infantry officer, I led more than 300 combat missions in Iraq, and I later served in the FBI as a special agent and as a member of the SWAT team, where I helped arrest violent gang members while protecting vulnerable communities from predators. I've seen the worst that humanity has to offer. And what's happening right now in America is evil on a new, unimaginable scale. And it's happening in plain sight. In my home district, Virginia's 11th, motels are being used to traffic children. Children smuggled across a wide open border during the Biden administration. Girls are being raped by grown men pretending to be high school students. Boys are being targeted and dragged into a life of crime by MS-13 gang members who slipped through our open border. Legal immigrant families who did things the right way are now living in fear. And we can't forget about the 300,000 children the Biden administration lost, missing, completely unaccounted for. The sad truth is that much of this is happening because of the policies pushed by politicians like my opponent, who proudly supports sanctuary cities. They're not supporting safe havens, they're creating sanctuaries for traffickers. Unlike the weak leadership on the left, President Trump got it right. He didn't just talk the tough, he acted. He got us to 0 illegal border crossings, he supported our law enforcement, and most importantly, he told the truth, even when the media didn't want to listen. That is leadership. And that's exactly why I'm running for Congress, because I didn't risk my life overseas to just come home and watch leaders surrender our women, children, and families to cartels and predators. At the end of the day, we are not just in a policy fight, we are in a moral fight, a fight for good over evil. And it's time we start acting like it. Again, my name is Stuart Whitson. Thank you so much for coming out today. Thank you to Matt and Mercy and the entire CPAC team. And thanks be to God for giving us a platform to fight for our kids, to fight for our families, and to fight for our country. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
And we're going to close off. I'm going to start with Rosie, and then we'll talk about just a few items to wrap up this incredible day.
The room is full of heroes, and I know that all of you deserve. Raul Camus is in the back. Thank you, Raul. Thank you to all of you, especially Frank. You did an incredible work. Cydia has been an assessor for us, and thank you so much that you are in our board as an assessor board. Of course, all the Kaleido board, if they can stand up, thank you so much for all the incredible work you have done. And this last award, that is a Premio Libertad, is for a Hispanic man who has been 4 years fighting against trafficking. I know that Cydia has been that good angel and also helping all of us, but Bob last year in the other summit, you were very important for the children. I know this year is another year, but it's a lot of things coming good for you. And I know from God that we need so many Bobs in the world because there is a lot of people who do not have the heart you have. So this hand of help is for you, Bob, from all of us. Eduardo Verasti wanted to give it to you too, and Mercy and Matt are so happy that we're going to give it to you. God bless you, Bob, and God bless your family.
The first thing that happens in human trafficking is they take away your identity, your passport or whatever. Even the children, they don't have identities. And I have to be quick here. But God has called each of us by name. They can take away our identity, our value, and that's the problem. We're not valuing each other. They can take away our identity, but each one of us, like Jesus says, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. So, like Eduardo was saying, let's pray. I'd like to say this with this incredible group, here I am, Lord. We can all stand up and say, here I am, Lord, to give value to all these missing and wonderful children.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Rosie. I just want to, Frank, come over here. We got a lot of work to do. This is just this is our third annual international summit for combating human trafficking, but we are going to come back with a list of what we're going to be working with the Department of Justice, with Department of Homeland Security. So we've got our homework cut out for us. We're going to share that with you as well, and then also please continue to connect with Frank on ensuring that we're getting your stories told, things that we need to advocate for here in Washington, D.C., and then, of course, join us. Join this movement. We're going to do CPAC Brazil in exile in Miami in August. We're going to be doing CPAC Paraguay, CPAC Mexico, CPAC Argentina, Japan, Australia, all before the end of the year. And this topic of human trafficking will be discussed in every single one of these CPACs. We're going to be working with the people on the ground and with the governments on the ground to get the job done and make sure that they're moving the ball on this issue. Frank, I'm going to leave it to you to finish it off here.
Thank you, Matt and Mercedes. First, can we give Matt and Mercedes a hand for taking the time? The last thing I'll say is we screened the Sound of Freedom. I was not at CPAC to even do this work, and Mercedes looked at me and said, well, we should start a center and you should run it. And I said, of course, without asking for a single dollar, not because I'm brilliantly hard, just I'm not wise. I said, sure, let's do it. And here we are almost 3 years later. This is our third summit. We're in over 10 countries. We've passed legislation in over 5 states. We've gotten 2 bills over the line, and none of it is enough. We have to provide an American solution to this international problem. And I cannot say enough, and this is not just to keep my job because it's the truth. Matt and Mercedes have given so much to this movement and followed a lot of us blindly into this work, and it's because of their heart and because God led them there. And God has led you to this room. Please stick with us. Please come find us. Please work with us. It is the honor of my lifetime to get to know a lot of you, and it's the honor of my lifetime to work with you, Mercy. Thank you all.